the Braxis Barracudas. So I was about to talk about their win. Braxis winning their first game of the season for the Kudas. And the Korhal War Pigs having a disappointing game number 1 loss. See how they respond. Zaxmack and Peter Delay will be taking the ice together today. That could play a big role for them. But Veyron will be their goalie. Very questionable. Zaxmack trying to get through. Gets it to Tanks, though. Tanks off the bottom. Crosses it. Zach stripped, and Tiny gets a shot in. But Veyron will make the save, though. Bad pass, though. Gives it away to Tom. And Tiny Tarrant picks it up. Peter Delay quickly picks it away. Zaxmack back to Peter. Stripped by Tiny. Tiny off the top boards, playing it to himself. Zaxmack will pick it up. Sends it to Peter. Good pass. Petey in the top slot. He will boost to the center, but Tanks with the aggressive steal will take it away. Tanks testing his might. Tries to throw it to the center. Tiny Tarrant will block that. Will not be able to get there. Zaxmack now bounces that off the top, gives it down to field to Kelvin. Kelvin now launching it for Peter Delay. Stripped by Tom. Tom to the bottom boards. And Tom downfield. Tiny Tarrant will be floating that to the top. Looks like Tanks and Kelvin will run it down. Tanks wins it. Tanks off the bottom. And Tiny stripped out by Zach, though. Good click there to save his rookie goalie. Sends it to Kelvin, then back to Zach. Mishandle, though, and Tom will end up picking up the loose puck. Sends that to the middle for Tanks. Tanks with a snipe, and Veyron will make the save. Tiny Tarrant stripped out by Peter Delay, sends it to Kelvin. Tiny then to the center, and Zaxmack now takes it. Tiny Tarrant gives it out to Tanks. Tanks crosses it. Zaxmack intercepts it. And that will be bounced out to Best Shark? Who the hell are these goalies? Is that... oh, is that fucking Marker? Peter Delay bounces that to Kelvin. Kelvin now off the top. Bouncing it out. Peter will now take it. He's going to boost forwards. He will look for the cross there, but Tanks will get it after it bounces off of Marker's shield. And Tanks now bouncing that downfield. Peter will take it and accidentally lose it. It's going to be thrown into the corner. Peter Delay almost getting a quick steal off Tom. Tom will safely recollect it. He's going to look downfield for Tiny Tarrant. Goes a little bit in front of him, though. And Tiny going back and forth. Spinning around. Backing away. Sends it downfield for Tanks. And Zaxmack interrupts it. Throws it to the top. Kelvin boosting forwards. Bounces that downfield. Not really sure what he was looking for. Went wide from everyone. Marker here is going to bounce that off the bottom, and a bad pass goes right to Zaxmack. Zaxmack heading back the other way. He's going to use Kelvin, sends it to Peter. Peter boosting in, takes a shot, and Tom will block it. He'll bounce out to Tanks, who sends it to the middle, but Zaxmack didn't even have to boost to get it. Zaxmack here. He's going to go forward, sends it to Peter. Peter boosting forwards, sends it across, but that will be blocked out by Marker. Zach with a good strip off Tanks. Zach looking for a seam, takes a shot, and Tom, the savvy veteran, will get in the way and block it. Tiny Tarrant to Tanks. Tanks in alone on Veyron. He's still spinning, and he's going to score. First goal of the season for Korhal. And no Vortex this season. It's a big thing. You know, I thought that was going to be a tried and true Korhal War Pigs thing, but I guess it's not going to happen this season. Zaxmack to Peter. Peter off the short side post. And man, the gap was there. Unfortunately, it gets rejected in his face. Zaxmack here. Gonna look for Kelvin. Sends it to him. Tiny blocks it. Zach gets a rebound. That will be the end, though. And, you know, it's a good period there. Tanks will have the crown so far with 1 goal. But, you know, Zaxmack very closely right behind him. Zaxmack having a great passing attack, really just trying to facilitate the puck to his teammates. Not hitting pay dirt yet, but they could. Tiny Tarrant sending that back. Tanks will pick this now and just float it down. That was really a weird play. Veyron, though, picks it up, sends it down to Peter Delay. Peter, back to Zach. Zach gets through the pile. He takes a snipe. And Marker easily turns that one aside. Tiny Terran with the bounce pass to himself, giving up ground to Peter. And Tiny Terran will cross that downfield for Tanks. Tanks off the top, takes a shot, and Zach Smack will block it. Gives it away to Tom, though. Kelvin smartly will cook that into the corner. And Peter Delay will pick it up. Stripped out by Tanks, though. Tanks off the top. He's going to spin around, still the puck, loses it for a moment. And it looks like Peter will clean it up into the corner. Stripped by Tanks again, though. Gives it a Tiny Terran on the doorstep. Buries that one home. Korhal War Pigs lead 2-0. Tom back to Tiny Terran. Sends him back to Tom. Tom boosting forwards. Sent to Tanks, and Tanks is going to bury home another one. Veyron just couldn't hold his water that time. And I guess that's their thing. It's not. I'm sorry, the Vortex. You know, the Vortex is very prestigious. And I'm sorry, Tom. There's no prestige in that. It's got to be said. My good friend, good friend, you know, Kevin Rush would tell me that, to tell you that. He's going to send that down to Tanks. Tanks here off the bottom lane. He's going to go forward, sends it to Tiny Terran. It will go wide. So Rush reads that. It's going to go downfield for Kelvin. Kelvin sending it back. Zach Smack will pick it back up. He's going to bounce that downfield for Peter Delay. Peter boosting forwards, backs out. Going to send it to Zach. The one-timer was there. Was blocked, though. Tom. Going to bounce that downfield. Peter Delay will pick this up now. He's going to bounce that back to Kelvin. Kelvin boosting forwards. Going to look for the cross there to Zach, but that is way off the mark. And Zach Smack boosting to the bottom. Stripped out by Tanks. Tanks sending it to Tiny in the center. He's going to float that back to Tanks. Tanks picks it up, sends it to Tiny. Tiny's making a move. Not going to be able to bury that one home, though. Very scary, though. The rebound straight to Kelvin. Kelvin, can he make a play? No. Marker just sealing the door in a hurry. Going to give that out to Tiny. And Tiny here, boosting off the top. He's going to look for a weak short side shot, but Veyron standing his ground. Zach Smack boosting forwards with the puck. Stripped by Tom. Sends it to Tanks. Tanks with the wiggle room on Veyron. Backs out, sends it to Tiny. Just a hair off. Otherwise, that would have been very deadly. That would have been very deadly. Tom with the weak shot right to Veyron. It's going to be passed down the middle. Zach Smack almost completely derping on it. We'll get it back, though. Gives it to Kelvin. Kelvin back to Zach. Zach will evade the puck a little bit. He'll throw it into the corner. Running it down. Sends it back. Kelvin now. Going to go back and forth. And he will just lose track of the puck there. Tom picks it up, boosting towards the bottom. Peter's going to fight with Tanks over it. And the loose puck will be lobbed towards Tiny. Kelvin and Tiny fighting for it. Tiny comes away with it. Sends it to the middle. Bad pass. It's going to have to be picked up by Tanks. And Zach. And Zach Smack will pick it up. He does have Kelvin for the one-timer from deep. Bang! Great vision there by Zach Smack. Just finding the lane and just sending it back to Kelvin with a great one-timer. Those deep one-timers are really hard for goalies to prepare for. And finally, the Cudas are on the board. They are not lifeless yet. Tiny Terran almost gives it away to Peter. Tank's going to have to use a boost to clean it up here. Peter gets it back, though. Peter, can he make a big play? Boosting back out. It does have Zach. Misses the pass, though. He will pick it back up. Going to send it forwards. Tanks interrupts it. Peter boosting backwards, and he's just going to launch it backwards. Veyron almost getting sharked there. That's going to be the end of the second. The Cudas still have some life, but they got a lot of work ahead of them if they want to come back into this game. They're down 1-3. Tanks with the crown, 2 goals, and 11 passes out with 25 pickups. It's a pretty slow-moving game, but you know, it's kind of what you expect when you have Tanks and Tom, who were with the Korhal squad last season, and they're playing a somewhat similar style of attack. And here goes the puck, played back to Tom, then back to Tanks. Tanks backing away. He's going to bounce that downfield. And Tiny not going to be able to get it. Neither is Kelvin. Veyron comes out, gives it back to Kelvin, then to Peter. Boosting forwards, backing out. Going to bounce that downfield for Zach. Zach having to use a boost. Takes a snipe. Kelvin on the rebound. Not going to be able to clean it up. And Tiny boosting forwards with daylight ahead of him. And Veyron with a great save. Peter Delay boosting forwards is going to try to get a sneaky little goal here. But the pile was just too much. Going to send that back out to Kelvin. Tried to float it to Zach through the pile, but not going to connect. Tiny Terran here into the corner. Zach picks it up. Zach now boosting to the bottom. Might be looking to Kelvin. Kelvin stripped out by Tanks. Kelvin can't get it back. Zach Smack putting up pressure on Tanks. Forces the bad pass. Tiny Terran will pick it back up, spinning around. And it's going to be given to Peter Delay. Peter Delay back to Zach Smack. Zach Smack boosting forwards with the short side snipe. It is picked out by Marker. Did not budge an inch. Peter back to Zach Smack, boosting in, trying to find a cross there. Can't quite find it. Peter almost had a one-timer attempt, but Zach with a shot right into Marker's gut there. Tom to Tanks, and Tanks just mishandles it. We'll float it to the top boards. Kuda's trying everything in their inventory to try to get a goal here, but it is tough sledding. Tanks gonna be stripped out by Kelvin. Tiny with the rebound, and Veyron just budges an inch with the backside floater, just slides right past him for the goal for Korhal. Kelvin will be stripped a couple times, sends it to Peter for the meta one-timer. Not enough space on the back to get it past. Sharked up by Peter though, and Peter gets the evac in goal. And they pause it right after the goal. It's technically illegal, so anybody can unpause it at any time they want. Technically. You know, technically nobody is in possession of it. I mean, I'm just saying. I mean, it's counting down off the timer, but I mean, they can unpause it if they want to. So, how's everyone's night? Did anybody figure out what happened to Moose? Is he dead? Or something? Anybody? Anybody know? Oh. I mean, do we really need a countdown? Like... Reach it! Alright. It's going to be picked up by Tiny. Tiny taking it to the top. Going to give it back to Tanks. And Tanks is... Oh. That's a bad rotation. Could have been a really good chance there for the Braxis Barracudas to get an easy one. But they weren't able to capitalize. Peter versus Tom. Peter with the face-off. Takes a shot, and Tiny Terran with the block. That absolutely would have gone through. It's a great play. Kelvin here, bouncing that off the top down to Peter. Peter trying to get it through. Gets it to Zach. Zach takes a shot. Goes wide. Gets it back to Peter. Kelvin picks it up, boosting forwards. Gets it back a couple times. Takes a shot, and Marker with a great save there. And give that out to Tiny Terran. We'll go wide. Zach Smack now picks it up. And Zach Smack sends it to Kelvin. Kelvin to back to Zach with the metal one-timer. Marker will shield that one away. Tanks now coming away with it with some real estate. Gives it away. And Veyron makes the save. Gives it out to Kelvin. Kelvin to Zach. Boosting forwards. Backing out. Takes a shot, and Tiny will block that. The Korhal defense is very good. They will block. Tom will play that off the top. Kelvin interrupts it. Gives it out to Peter. Peter boosts forwards, but not a lot of options. Back to the center. He gives it back to Kelvin, though, and Tanks sitting on the crease. Absolutely impossible to score with that. Tanks running it down. Peter in hot pursuit. It will be juggled to the center. Zach Smack plays it to the top boards. Running out of time here, though. Going to play that downfield for Peter. And Tanks back to Tiny. Zaxmac can't YOLO through effectively. Tanks here looking for the dagger. Stripped out by Peter. And Peter boosting forwards. Gonna look to Zach. Takes a snipe and it goes off the post. Zaxmac back to Kelvin. It is blocked out by Tanks. Peter getting it back. Takes a snipe and that one goes through. It is not over yet, ladies and gentlemen. Braxis is only down by 1, and Peter DeLye, one of the best face-off experts you'll see. Peter winning the face-off, sends it to Kelvin, misses the pass, gets it back though. He's going to look to the center, gets it to Zach on the doorstep, and it is stripped away by Tom. An excellent play, and that's going to be the end of the game. Braxis will fall to the Korhal War Pigs, who get their first win of the season. Peter DeLye will take the crown though today with 2 goals and 19 passes out. Peter playing really, really well for his team, just not enough to squeak past and get the win. But still an excellent showcasing for both these teams. A very, very nail-biter of a game, that's for sure. But Korhal back to their winning ways from last season. They started off the season in a 0-1 loss, and they went back to their old ways and started producing some and playing some great defense and actually producing some on offense. That's really good to see. But Tiny Terran and Tanks are able to be in sync with each other. Pretty good passing numbers across the board. Pretty much, well, all the skaters were double digits at least, and all the skaters were above at least 16 or above in terms of passing. So very even game and very good squad.